He was the kind of man who made silence feel like gravity pulling you in even when you swore you'd stay untouched. I should have walked away the moment our eyes met across that poolside crowd. But I didn't. I smiled, lifted my glass, and flirted with the stranger who'd soon ruin my idea of right and wrong. That stranger turned out to be my stepbrother. The party had started as any other LA weekend chaos: champagne, gossip, people pretending not to care while caring too much. I'd been dragged there by my best friend, Ethan, who promised me it'd be the perfect distraction from my breakup. Maybe it was, until I saw him. He stood near the pool, the soft golden lights flickering over his face. The way his shirt clung to his chest like the night itself had decided to outline his every breath. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't even trying. He just existed, quietly magnetic, like someone you could fall for before you knew his name. And like an idiot, I walked straight into that gravity. "Hey!" I said, brushing past a crowd of people, pretending confidence I didn't feel. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." He turned, eyes slow, deliberate. "You're not wrong." His voice was deep measured, the kind that hit your chest before your ears could catch up. "Then lucky you. I'm great at making nights slightly less miserable," I joked. He smirked barely, but it was enough to make my stomach twist. "That's so? I'm serious. I'm a professional mood enhancer." "Is that what they call flirting now?" I laughed, a little too loud. "Maybe, but I'm not bad at it." "You seem confident," he said, sipping his drink. "You seem like you could use someone confident." And there it was. That small, dangerous pause where words stopped and something else began. He looked at me like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. Then he leaned closer, voice low enough to be mistaken for the wind. "Careful, kid. You don't know what you're walking into." "I think I do," I whispered, even though I didn't. The night blurred after that music, drinks, glances. We ended up on the back porch, away from the noise. He told me his name was Liam. Just Liam. No last name. No history. I liked that. Felt simple. We talked about everything and nothing, the kind of half-drunk confessions you make to a stranger when the world feels far enough away. He told me he'd just moved back to LA after years overseas. I told him I was trying to forget someone. He smiled softly. "Did you?" "Not even close." He didn't answer, just looked at me for a long time, so long I forgot to breathe. Then he brushed his fingers against mine on the railing. It was nothing. It was everything. The moment hung there, fragile and electric, until someone called my name from inside. "Alex, come meet my mom's fiancé and his son," Ethan shouted, waving from the living room. I didn't think much of it. Not until Liam froze beside me. "Your mom's fiancé?" he repeated, voice suddenly sharp. "Yeah." "Why?" But he didn't answer. He just set his glass down, eyes dark with something unreadable, and whispered, "Shit." When I walked back inside, everything slowed. My mom stood beside a man I'd never seen before, handsome in a polished, suburban dad kind of way, and beside him stood Liam, the same Liam who'd touched my hand moments ago. "Alex," my mom said, glowing with excitement. "This is Robert, me fiancé, and this is his son, Liam." My heart stopped. Liam's jaw clenched, but he managed a small nod. "Nice to meet you, Alex." And just like that, every heartbeat I'd ignored came crashing in. The next few weeks were hell. Not the loud, dramatic kind. The quiet, unbearable kind where every glance feels like a crime, every word a risk. Liam moved into our house a few days later. My mom thought it was wonderful that her boys were getting along so well. If only she knew. I tried to avoid him. I really did. But it's hard to avoid someone whose room is right down the hall. Sometimes I'd catch him in the kitchen at midnight, shirtless, drinking water straight from the bottle. Other times I'd hear him laugh downstairs with my mom's fiancé, pretending to be fine, pretending he wasn't remembering that night like I was. It was torture, the kind that made you wish you'd never met someone, even as every cell in your body begged to see them again. One evening, after a particularly suffocating dinner, I escaped to the backyard. The sky was bruised purple, the air thick with summer heat. I didn't expect him to follow, but he did. "You're avoiding me?" Liam said, leaning against the doorway. "Maybe because that's the smart thing to do. Smart doesn't suit you. Neither does playing house," I snapped. "You're really good at pretending, though. Family dinners, polite smiles. It's impressive." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You think this is easy for me?" "I don't know what it is for you," I said, turning away. "Maybe just a game you didn't expect to get caught in." In 2 steps, he was behind me, his breath warm against my neck. "You think I haven't been trying to forget that night? Then why are you here?" I whispered. He hesitated. "Because you're the only thing that feels real in a house full of lies." My chest tightened. For a moment, I almost believed him. Then I remembered who we were, what we were. "You can't say things like that," I muttered, voice shaking. "We can't do this." "I know," he said softly. "But tell me you don't want to." And I couldn't, because I did. God help me, I did. Days turned into weeks, and the tension became unbearable. Every glance was a spark waiting to catch fire. We both tried to act normal. Liam threw himself into his new job at a law firm. I buried myself in college work. But at night, the silence between our rooms screamed louder than any denial. Sometimes I'd hear him pacing. Sometimes I'd hear him stop outside my door. And just once I opened it. He stood there, eyes dark, hands trembling. Neither of us spoke. He stepped forward. I didn't move, and when his lips met mine, it felt like falling and finding home at the same time. But happiness, in stories like ours, never lasts long. The next morning, everything cracked. Robert, his father, found out. He didn't shout. He didn't hit. He just looked at us like we'd burned the world he built. And maybe we had. "I can't believe this," he said, voice cold. "You're brothers." "We're not," I said quickly. "We're not really. It doesn't matter," he cut in. "You live under the same roof. You've destroyed everything." My mom cried. Liam stood frozen, and May felt like the air had been ripped from my lungs. When they told us Liam was moving out, I didn't stop them. I just watched him pack. At the door, he turned to me, eyes heavy with all the words we couldn't say. "Maybe in another life," he whispered, and then he was gone. The silence that followed Liam's departure wasn't peaceful. It was hollow, the kind of quiet that echoed against walls that once felt alive. Mom stopped talking about the wedding. Robert moved out a few weeks later, claiming they needed space, and 2 turned into a ghost inside my own house. Every trace of Liam was gone, but somehow he lingered. His cologne clung to the hallway. His toothbrush stayed in the bathroom drawer until I threw it away, crying like an idiot at 2 in the morning. It's funny how quickly a home can feel foreign. I went back to college, pretending to function. My friends stopped asking why I changed. I guess heartbreak shows in ways you can't hide. Sometimes, I'd open my phone and hover over his number. He hadn't blocked me, but neither of us texted. There was nothing to say that wouldn't reopen wounds still bleeding. He'd once told me he didn't believe in fate. "People make choices," he said. "That's all there is." So I tried to make Manito move on. But late at night, when the city went quiet, I'd remember his voice, the way it dropped when he said my name. "Alex," like it meant something. A year passed, then another. My mom eventually called to say she and Robert had broken up for good. No surprise there. "Some things," she said, "just aren't meant to be." I almost laughed. "Tell me about it." By then, I'd graduated, got a job at a small advertising agency downtown. My life was fine, predictable, and empty, until one rainy Thursday evening, when the universe or whatever cruel force runs this show decided to twist the knife. It started with a pitch meeting. A big client, new account. The kind of deal that could make or break a career. I was ready, suit pressed, confidence rehearsed, coffee in hand. And then I walked into the conference room. There he was, Liam, older, sharper, a tailored black suit that fit him like sin. His hair was shorter, a little darker, but his eyes, God, those eyes hadn't changed. For a moment the world tilted. I swear I stopped breathing. He looked up, recognition flickering across his face like lightning. But he didn't flinch. He just smiled politely professional. You must be Alex. I almost laughed at the absurdity. And you must be Mr. Carter. Liam, he corrected softly, shaking my hand. Let's keep it first names, yeah? His touch was brief. Too brief. But my skin remembered every inch. The meeting went smoothlier, so I pretended. I said all the right words, hit all the right points. Meanwhile, my brain screamed, he's here. He's real. He's right in front of you. When it ended, I practically bolted for the elevator. But before the doors closed, his hand shot out, stopping them. Leaving so soon? He asked. Yeah. Avi got another thing. Coffee? He said simply. I should have said no. I wanted to say no. But my mouth betrayed me. Yeah, sure. We ended up in a quiet cafe 2 blocks away, the rain tapping softly on the windows. Neither of us spoke for a while. Just silence, and the kind that wasn't empty this time, but charged. Finally, he said, You look good. I huffed a laugh. You look expensive. He smiled faintly. Occupational hazard. So, I said, forcing casual. You're an executive now? Something like that. Corporate law. I negotiate contracts, which apparently includes yours. Small world. Cruel one, he murmured. That shut me up. He leaned back, studying me. How's your mom? She's better. She moved up north. Started painting again. And Robert? Gone. A pause. I'm sorry. For what? For how everything ended. I stared at my coffee, swirling it absently. You mean the part where we burned down 2 families? Or the part where you walked away? He winced. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, I said quietly. He met my eyes, and for a moment, the mask slipped. I saw guilt, pain, the same loneliness I'd carried for years. Maybe, he said softly, but I didn't want to destroy you more than I already had. You think disappearing fixed that? He exhaled. No, but I thought time might. Well, I said, bitterness creeping in. It didn't. We sat in silence again, the tension raw. Then, out of nowhere, he chuckled a low, broken sound. God, I missed this. You throwing daggers with your words. Yeah, well, you left me plenty to sharpen them on. He smiled sadly. Fair. Something shifted then. The anger, the longing, the years all swirling together until it felt impossible to separate them. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said it, quiet but firm. Dinner. Tomorrow night. Why? Because if I don't see you again, I'll regret it. I should have said no. I didn't. The next night I showed up. Against all logic. Against every warning my brain screamed. He'd picked a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, classy, intimate, too romantic for 2 people who shouldn't exist together. When I arrived, he was already there, staring out at the skyline. For a moment I just watched him. The way the city lights caught his face. The quiet ache in his posture. He turned and smiled. You came. Apparently, I'm still bad at making smart choices. Good, he said softly. I was hoping that hadn't changed. Dinner was easy. Shockingly so. We talked like no time had passed about work, movies, the ridiculousness of adult life. But beneath it all, the tension simmered. Every laugh, every glance, every brush of his hand against mine reignited everything we'd buried. By dessert, my heart was a wildfire. When he leaned closer, his voice low, I knew I was already lost. You still do that thing, he murmured. What thing? Pretend you're fine when you're not. And you still do that thing, I shot back. Act like you've got control when you're breaking inside. He smiled faintly. Touché. The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, I whispered, Why now, Liam? He looked down at his hands. Because I'm tired of pretending I didn't love you. The world stopped. For years I'd imagined hearing those words. In dreams, in half-drunk thoughts, in the spaces between heartbreak and sleep. But hearing them out loud, real, trembling, from his lips it undid me. I didn't speak. I just stared. He continued, voice shaking. I tried, Alex. I tried to move on. But every time I met someone, they weren't you. Every room I walked into, I looked for your face. And I hated myself for it. My throat burned. You think saying that fixes anything? No, he said softly. But it's the truth. I blinked back tears. You ruined me. I ruined us, he said. But maybe we can stop pretending we don't still exist. He reached out, then hesitant, gentle, and took my hand. And just like before, everything felt dangerously right. The city glowed below us, cars flickering like stars that had fallen too low. Somewhere, someone laughed. Somewhere, someone cried. But here on this rooftop it was just us. He leaned in, slow, like giving me time to stop him. I didn't. When our lips met, it wasn't fire this time. It was something quieter, sadder, realer, like two people finally admitting what they'd always known. When we pulled apart, I whispered, "This can't end the same way." He nodded. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." The next few weeks were a blur of rediscovery. Coffee mornings, late-night phone calls, the small miracle of being near each other without fear. We didn't label it, didn't rush, just were. For the first time in years, I felt whole. But love isn't simple, not when the past is a living ghost. Word got out, his colleagues, whispers, judgment. My mother found out too. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sighed. You can't choose who you love, Alex, but you can choose how you fight for it. It wasn't approval, but it was something close to peace. One evening, months later, I found Liam on my apartment balcony, staring at the city again. Deja vu? I asked softly. He smiled. Only this time, I'm not running. I walked up beside him, slipping my hand into his. He squeezed it, firm and certain. Do you ever think about that night? I asked. Every day, he said. But now, when I do, it doesn't hurt anymore. Why not? Because this time, I get to wake up knowing I can call you mine. And maybe that was a quiet victory after years of chaos. Not fireworks, not perfection. Just two men, standing side by side, finally free to love without fear. It's strange how love can make ordinary things feel like miracles. A cup of coffee on Sunday mornings. The sound of his laughter from the kitchen. The quiet comfort of knowing someone's waiting for you at the end of the day. After everything we'd been through, these small, unremarkable moments felt sacred. Months had passed since we found our way back to each other. We didn't rush to define either, was no need. The world had already judged us once. This time we lived on our own terms. Still, the past never fully disappeared. Sometimes, when we walked down the street and someone looked too long, I could feel Liam tense beside me. Old habits die hard. But then I'd brush my fingers against his. A quiet reminder that we'd already survived worse. We were learning to live again. Together. It was a Saturday afternoon when he suggested it, simple, casual, like he was asking what to eat for lunch. Come with me to the firm's charity gala next week, he said, not looking up from his laptop. I blinked. You're serious? Of course. He closed the screen and met my eyes. It's time. I hesitated. The idea of stepping back into the public eye, beside him as us, felt both terrifying and liberating. People will talk, I said quietly. He smiled. They already do. Let's give them something worth talking about. That was Liam, fearless, steady, the kind of man who didn't ask the world for permission. And maybe, for once, I didn't want to ask either. The night of the gala came faster than I expected. The ballroom was breathtaking, gold chandeliers, polished marble floors, the kind of place where every conversation sounded rehearsed. My nerves screamed, but Liam's hand found mine just before we walked in. Hey, he murmured, squeezing gently. Breathe. I am breathing. Try doing it without shaking. I laughed, which helped, just like he knew it would. Inside, the noise was deafening, music, laughter, clinking glasses. But somehow, even in that chaos, I only saw him. We moved through the room like any other couple, greeting people, smiling, pretending not to notice the curious glances. At one point, a senior partner clapped Liam on the shoulder and said, Didn't know you were bringing a date tonight. Liam didn't flinch. You do now, he said simply. The man's expression faltered for a moment before turning polite again. Well, good for you, Carter. And just like that, the world didn't end. Later, we stepped outside for air. The city lights glittered below, the night humming with distant traffic and soft jazz from the open doors. You handled that well, I said. He smirked. You mean not punching my boss in the face? I mean owning it. Owning us. He turned to face me fully. I'm done hiding, Alex. I spent too many years pretending that doing the right thing meant being miserable. I don't want to live that way anymore. The words hit deep, because I'd done the same. Let fear dictate what I was allowed to feel, who I was allowed to love. For so long, our story had felt like a wound. That night, it finally felt like a scare mark that proved we'd survived. He reached out, brushing a stray hair from my forehead. You know, he said softly, I never told you what made me come back that day. I looked up. What? I saw your name in a magazine article, he said. That ad campaign you did, the one with the "Love is Limitless" slogan? I laughed lightly. You read that? I didn't just read it, he said. I stared at it for hours. Felt like you were speaking to me through every line. That's when I realized I'd spent years waiting for a sign. When you'd been giving me one all along. My chest tightened. You're an idiot. Maybe, he said with a grin. But I'm your idiot. I smiled, shaking my head, and leaned in to kiss him. The kind of kiss that didn't need to prove anything. The kind that simply was. When we walked back inside, something unexpected happened. The band had slowed down, the lights dimmed, and someone started playing a soft, old jazz tune at last. A few couples drifted onto the dance floor. Liam turned to me, eyebrow raised. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. Come on, he coaxed, offering his hand. It's just a dance. Everyone's watching. So let them. He said it with such quiet certainty that all my fear melted. So I took his hand, and we danced. At first, it was awkward, two grown men trying not to step on each other's shoes, laughing under their breath. But soon the world faded again, and it was just user movements, slow, natural, hearts sinking to the rhythm of something older than shame. People did watch. Some smiled, a few whispered, but most just saw two people in love. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care what any of them thought. Later, as we stood by the balcony, the night wind cool against our skin, Liam wrapped an arm around me. You ever think about how insane this is? I asked softly. Completely, he said. But I also think it's the only thing that's ever made sense. I leaned my head against his shoulder, watching the city stretch endlessly beneath us. I used to hate LA, I murmured. Felt like a place full of people pretending to be happy. And now it feels like home. He smiled, kissing the top of my head. That's because you stopped pretending. Time blurred again after that night, but this time, it wasn't running away from us. It was building something. We moved in together 6 months later. Nothing fancy, a sunlit apartment near the beach, walls lined with plants and framed photos. One of them was from that gallows midlaugh, not realizing someone had snapped it. It hung by the front door, a reminder that love could survive the worst and still come out softer, truer. We still fought sometimes. We still had bad days. But even in the storms, there was peace. Because for once, we were on the same side of the chaos. And that, I think, is what love really isn't. Perfection, not fairy tales, but the choice to stay. Every single day. One evening, long after sunset, we sat on the balcony, same place, same city, but a different kind of silence. Liam looked at me, that familiar warmth in his eyes. Do you ever regret it? I thought for a moment, then shook my head. Not 1 second. He smiled. Good, because I think this was always where we were supposed to end up. I laughed softly. You and your fate speeches. I thought you didn't believe in that. He shrugged. I didn't. Until you. And maybe that's how our story should end, not with fireworks or grand declarations, but with two men, side by side, watching the world they once feared finally make room for them. Because sometimes love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about surviving the imperfect world together and still choosing each other, again and again. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.